Hello, good morning everybody and welcome to Mindset Monday. My name is Sally Garozzo and this is the place to be to get inspiration and motivation on how to be happier and more fulfilled in your life. So today is part 2 of a 3-part series called Reprogram Your Mind for Weight Loss. And if you want to watch part 1 first, I will put the link either above or below, no matter depending on where you're watching it. But for now, today's session is called Why Having Excess Weight is Not Actually Your Fault. So this will really let you off the hook. This will really actually create a lot of relief in your energetic system, and where there is relief, you'll feel more able to shed, to let go, which is really what the weight is all about. It's a holding on. So this is for you if you think that this weight might be something to do with excess emotion or emotions that you're carrying, underlying emotions. This is for you if you find it hard to accept yourself exactly the way that you are. And I'm going to be talking about why accepting yourself is the absolute key. Accepting yourself with the weight is the key to shedding it, to losing it. And this is for you if you don't understand why you keep reaching for foods that are not good for you, even though you try to use all the willpower in the world, why you automatically reach for foods that are not good for you. So you're welcome to grab a notebook, grab an exercise book and a pen, and let's dive in deep, shall we? So, whatever kind of condition you have created for yourself, I want you to know that it is not your fault. So we are products of our programming. We are all victims of victims. You know, it goes back a long way. Ancestral pain is a thing, and it gets passed down through the generations, through learnt behavior, through our DNA. And what we do in RTT is we investigate these childhood memories, not to blame, but to understand in order to release. Hi everyone that's watching. Hi Emma. Hi Ruth. So it's important to look at these childhood memories, obviously, but it's also important to forgive yourself and to let yourself off the hook, which is what today's session is all about. Now, the thing that I hate the most is that sometimes, you know, if you've put on a bit of weight, or I hear this from my clients, you know, I go to the doctors and doctors sometimes, this is not to give doctors a bad name because they're just doing the best that they can, but doctors sometimes shame their patients into losing weight, and often people who are overweight are seen as lazy, are seen as stupid, are just seen as, you know, not people, which is absolutely tragic, and it's so hurtful. And when you shame people because they're overweight, it just adds layers of more self-hate. And if you shame yourself for being overweight, it adds more layers of self-hate. And what does self-hate create? It creates stress in the body. And when there's stress in the body, you cannot lose weight. It's so much harder to lose weight if you are stressed. So this is why shaming does not work. It stokes that fire that I was speaking about in the last episode. So we need to really seek to understand ourselves and our own trauma that might have caused the weight, but we also need to understand culture and nature, which is what I'm going to be talking about. And we need to understand ourselves and our culture rather than blame ourselves. You know, blaming ourselves does not work. Self-punishment does not work because it means that your body is working against you. It creates more stress. And you know, if self-punishment were going to work, don't you think it would have worked by now in across the board in all our systems, not just with our health and well-being? Self-punishment and blame does not work. And there are reasons why it's not your fault. And it's not your fault because of these three different traps. You have got the protection trap, the culture trap, and the nature trap. Okay, and I'm going to talk about all of these things now. So I want to talk about the protection trap. So if you are a normal person, you will have probably had a less than perfect upbringing. This means you will have experienced some trauma in your life, whether it's been excessive or whether it's been mild. So trauma is trauma, whether it's horrific, horrible, unfathomable, or little mini traumas through your childhood. Our parents never get it perfect. You know, that might come when we're all educated a bit better, but our parents, with the best will in the world, never got it perfect. And what happens is we shelve this trauma. This is what I mean by the protection trap. We shelve it, we box it away, because when we're younger, when we're kids, we cannot deal with that trauma. We don't have the emotional maturity to deal with it. So we box it, we shelve it, we shut down, we put it away, and often we blame ourselves, but we box it and we put it away from reality, and we kind of go into a bit of survival mode, okay? Because we think that if we break down, it's going to be an absolute mess for weeks, months, years, forever, okay? So we try to avoid these feelings because we're just not used to feeling feelings in the culture that we live in. It's not something that is generally done. You don't see people breaking down in the middle of the street or in the middle of the pub. Sometimes you do, and that's a good thing. But, you know, in tribal cultures, they create space for emotions to be felt. And I think this is a really good idea. So let me get back to what I was saying. We block feelings in order to survive. We have to, you know, in this world, we have to show up for work. We have to look after the kids. We have to look after our ailing parents. We have to, you know, pass our exams. We have to grow our businesses. We have to maintain our relationships. Life sometimes feels tough, okay? And at the end of the day, sometimes our only solace might be bread of that stuff. Sorry, I had a phone call then. And that stuff at the end of the evening, it numbs our senses, it slows our aggravated nervous system down, it brings us back into our bodies, and we might have spent the whole day thinking about others, doing things for other people. Our energies are out there, but when we eat food, it brings us back into ourselves. That's why it feels so good. It kind of puts us into this coma. It takes us away from a bad feeling to a good feeling. And that is the definition of an addiction, is when you use an external thing to take you away from a bad feeling to a good feeling. And of course, it doesn't work full time. What am I saying? It doesn't work long term. Okay. So in that moment, food takes away all of our problems, right? And there's a good reason for that. And here's why: because we are programmed to be comforted by fat and sugar. Now, interestingly, the only food in nature that has fat and sugar combined is breast milk. So whenever you crave fat and sugar combined, it is a regressive act. And if you think about it, fat and sugar, you know, are in basically crisps, cakes, chocolate, all of that stuff. So it's a regressive act from when you felt safe. You have never felt so safe and secure when you were being breastfed or bottle fed by one of your parents. And that feeling of safety and security is what we are craving when we eat junk food, okay? So it's a regressive act. And if you think about it, it's kind of weird to think that when you're eating cake, you are actually on the nipple in your mind. It's weird. And it can help you reframe it. So the trauma that we experienced in our youth, we shelve it until we're much better equipped to deal with trauma, namely in our 30s, 40s, 50s and 60s. But this is a problem, and it's a problem because we forget that it's there, okay? We store it for too long, and we get used to the feeling of suppressing and self-medicating. Now, the trouble is, eventually our bodies will give way and we end up with ailments. We end up with dysfunction, we end up with disease, we end up with illness. And basically, these ailments is our body's way of screaming at us, of telling us we need an outlet, we need a voice, we need to be heard. Our pain, our emotional pain, needs to be heard. And so the pain in the body gives voice to the emotional pain that has perhaps been gone unheard for so long. Now, when it hits the body, that is when we get a wake-up call. We can ignore the little things for a very, very, very long time, but as soon as it hits the body and gets really bad, that is when we start to wake up. It's almost like, it's got bad enough now. I cannot handle this backache. I cannot handle this stress. I cannot handle these headaches. I cannot handle these sleepless nights, these night sweats, these crippling, painful joints, this evil digestive system. I cannot handle it. It's too painful. And that is when we usually wake up. So this is a really sad fact that we often ignore the mild symptoms. And I would say, guys, listen to your body. Lower your tolerance for feeling bad. Confront this suppressed pain before it confronts you. Now, I always say to my clients, what is worse? People who are on the fence about having some kind of treatment, I say, what is worse? Having a good cry, letting it out, accepting yourself, loving yourself, or this long-term struggle, this stuffing it away. It just does not make sense. A few changes might need to be implemented. That's fine. It will happen. And it will happen well if you commit to it. So that's the protection trap. We protect ourselves. Now, the other thing that reason why it's not our fault is because of the culture trap. Now, if you look at advertising, you will see that advertisers like to link sugar and fat to joy. I've got a few pictures in front of me. I can't show them to you at the moment, but you can Google awful advertising in terms of sugar, and it will come up with, I've got one here that says Galaxy, not only tastes good, but does good. No. What about the McDonald's Happy Meal? No. What about, there's one here called sugar cones, and it's called, the branding is Joy Sugar Cones. And no, people, this is just not true. It's absolute BS. They are feeding you lies. My favourite one is Pringles, once you pop, you can't stop. I mean, that is just, imagine putting that on a box of cigarettes. That would just wouldn't be allowed, would it? So these advertisers are feeding us lies non-stop. They are actually hypnotizing us. And these companies, these big companies, have a vested interest in keeping us sick. They show us pictures of food, right, on their external packaging. They show us pictures of it. Now, our brain sees food or pictures of food because it doesn't really know the difference, and it wants it. Whenever you see food, you want it. How many times have you finished your dinner, turned on a cookery program, and suddenly been hungry again and just had to eat an extra snack while you're watching food? Your mind is programmed to see food and want it. So one of my hacks is, and I'm going to talk about these hacks more in the next video, but one of my hacks is just don't look at it. When you're in the supermarket, don't look at that food. Or better still, do your shopping online. Or if someone's eating a cake in front of you, just avert your eyes. It works an absolute treat. Then there's things like the office party or birthdays or anniversaries or weddings. We celebrate with sugar. It's in our culture. We buy into this idea that sugar is joy. But sugar is not joy, people. It's really, really not. You know, sugar in excess like that is pain. It's cancer, it's diabetes, it's depression, it's anxiety, it's headaches, it's hormones going up and down. It affects everything. It affects your work, your energy, your mood, and even affects your relationships. So the trick is to not link sugar to joy, but link sugar to pain. And you can link anything to anything. You just have to make the connection, because your mind is a meaning-making machine. So you can link, you can have a big cake to mean joy, or you can have a big cake to mean toxic poison. You know, like bleach. We link bleach. We wouldn't drink bleach because we link that to pain. We don't link bleach to pleasure, do we? But we could do, but we don't, because we know it's not safe. So we could actually link pain to cakes, chocolates, crisps, all of those things that are innately, you know, not great for our bodies. So don't let the industry tell you what to think. Make up your own mind. And this brings me to my next point. Be a rebel. Unplug yourself from the status quo. Okay, so if we really want to change our relationship to food, we have to question these lies that are being fed to us, and we have to make up our own mind. We must ignore, you know, the culture scape that we live in. We have to understand why we are being forced to stay sick, to basically line other people's pockets. So I believe that it is the biggest rebellious act that we can do. And if you're a bit of a rebel like me, the biggest rebellious act that we can do is to be in control of our own health, so that we are not reliant on these crumbling economic, political, health systems all around us. If we lead by example, we can blaze the trail for others, and that makes us feel fantastic, because the mind loves being in control. The mind loves the feeling of being empowered. So when you are healthy, you are more in control. You're more in control of your circumstances. You are more in control of your energy. And like I said before, you're no longer dependent on this crumbling health system. So again, sugar and fat combined, it's not joy, okay? You can link it to toxic poison. And that's what I do whenever I see cakes in a coffee shop. First of all, I avert my eyes. Then my mind doesn't get involved in the story. But if I am looking at it, I just go, toxic poison, don't want it anywhere near my body. It's not for me. It's not real food. You know, if you left one of those sugary cakes that you can buy in Asda that's not even refrigerated, if you left it out for a month, it would not rot, okay? That's not food. Food, natural food that is good for us, will rot. It will degenerate over time. That's food. Right, so I'm getting on my high horse today. And one thing I wanted to say about rebellion is that people in the past have used kind of the whole sex, drugs and rock and roll thing to rebel. But today that is no longer rebellion, right? Today health is the new rebellion. So plug into your own vision, plug into your own intention of what you want for yourself. You will be much, much happier. Reject what you are being told by large corporations, because when you do that, when you reject that, you are reclaiming your own power. And there's nothing more brilliant than taking your power back. Your body, your mind loves it. So I want to just say a little caveat here. I don't want you, in a way, to teach this stuff to your kids. I want you to let your kids have what they want in terms of cake and chocolates and sweets and stuff like that. Because when I was a kid, I was kind of told that I shouldn't eat that stuff, and I was kind of shamed around wanting it. And when I went into my teenage years, I actually kind of rebelled against my parents, because that's what you do when you are a teenager, you want to rebel. And so I ended up kind of going the opposite, and I ended up creating a sugar addiction for myself. So let your kids find their own way with this. You know, the experience of pain is a real motivator, and it's a sad fact that sometimes we have to let our kids experience pain, but we do. We can't mollycoddle them, we can't wrap them up in cotton wool. We can advise, we can coach, we can enable them to express their own feelings healthfully. And when they do that, they might find that they don't want to eat so much sugar. But because all the kids are eating sugar, maybe at a party, if you tell kids that they can't eat sugar and everyone else is, you're going to make them feel very, very different and isolated. And that will create other issues as well. So children and sugar is a bit of a whole different issue. So let me stay on topic. So I want to talk about the third trap, which is the nature trap. And I want to highlight this idea that nature actually wants you to be fat, okay? Because nature still thinks that you will die of hunger. That is why we are hardwired to binge on sugar and fat, basically. So if you cast your minds back to when you were living in the tribe, if you can use your imagination, the hunter or whoever was collecting food would have gone out and maybe they found rare food. Maybe they would have found mangoes, strawberries, honey, pineapples, bananas, whatever. They would have brought that back, and you, who might have been doing something else, maybe you were the cook, or maybe you washed the clothes or built the houses, there's no way you would have gone, you know what, no thank you, not today, I'm not going to have any of that today. You would have eaten whatever the hunter got back for you, okay? And you would have binged as well, because you know that you can actually live off your fat reserves, okay? And there would have been lean times in nature. But of course, there are no lean times today, okay? So we are programmed to binge on food that is rare and food that is full of fat and sugar. But the trouble is, today there is an abundance of it. Today, there are Kit Kats, Mars bars, Galaxies, flakes, but your mind still thinks that Kit Kats and Mars bars are rare. So it goes, want. Maybe there's going to be lean times and I have to stock up. So logically, we know that they're not rare, but food is emotional. So no matter how much logic we use, food is emotional because it's linked to survival, okay? So cakes literally have your name on it. And it's very, very difficult to have a fight with that kind of coding. It's very difficult to use willpower against that kind of coding. And what you have to do instead is work with the rules of the mind. And in my next video, next Monday, I'm going to give you all my best hacks for working with the rules of the mind when it comes to food and weight loss. So, those are the 3 reasons why it's not your fault, okay? The protection trap, we protect ourselves against feeling feelings because we have to get on in life, and we really need to unlock these feelings in order to shed weight and shed layers. We have to get to the bottom of it all. The culture trap and the nature trap. So in response to all of that, what we really, really need to do if we're going to change anything, we first must accept. There's this thing called the acceptance paradox, and it's one of the great mysteries, I think. Once we accept ourselves exactly the way that we are, with the conditions that we've created for ourselves, but also once we accept the way that the world is, we can decide to just let it go. Because what that does is it loosens the energetic grip that it has over you. It loosens its hold over you, and it means that we can be free. So accepting yourself exactly the way that you are is a wonderful thing. And people don't do this, especially people who are overweight. They don't do this because they think that if they accept themselves exactly the way that they are and love themselves, they're going to eat more cake or junk food. But that's not true. When you really, really accept yourself and love yourself, you want to do what is best for yourself. You don't want to live in a body that is sick, poorly and uncomfortable. You want to support yourself. You want to give yourself the best. So, we might be angry and full of rage about the culture trap, about the fat cats, about the sick people in all the hospital beds, but that just means that we are staying plugged into the stress of it all. And the stress stops us from shedding weight. If you're interested in this idea of stress hormones and weight, take a look at Fat Around the Middle by Marilyn Glenville, okay? We might feel shame around our bodies and maybe a particular mess that we've got ourselves into regarding our eating and our body shapes. But that shame causes more self-loathing, which in turn makes us want to suppress using cake, sugar, junk food. So we really need to ditch the shame. We also might feel helpless and powerless against the pull of nature to keep us tied to food. But that feeling of helplessness is completely disempowering and it's ultimately untrue. The laws of nature are there to ensure your survival. So thank you, nature. But what nature doesn't do is ensure your growth. This is ultimately responsible for your growth. Okay, so we need to let go of this anger around the culture trap, this shame around the protection trap, this helplessness around the nature trap, because it takes us out of the driving seat. So acceptance of what is gives us the ability to put us back into the saddle. Okay, and next week I'm going to teach you about all my mindset hacks which put you back into the saddle, but you can't do that until you have fully accepted yourself first. And there are many, many, many different kinds of practices that you can do which enhance self-acceptance. Things like breathing, meditation, dynamic meditation, 5 rhythms, the therapy that I do, RTT, EFT, there's so much. You just have to look at what is going to work for you. So I have an exercise that I thought we could all do together. It's not an analytical exercise like the one last week. This week is just listen and accept. So you can find a nice comfortable spot. I'm probably going to talk for about 3 or 4 minutes just so that you get the idea of the kind of language that I'm using, and you can use this kind of language yourself to soothe yourself. So I want you to find a nice comfortable sitting or lying down position and just close your eyes. Take some nice deep breaths and focus in on yourself. Focus on your body, your breath, bringing yourself into the present moment. And there's nothing you need to do. You just need to listen. You don't even need to visualize anything. So follow these words with your mind and let them in like lotion to your skin. So saying these words to yourself, even though I might feel angry about all the big junk food industries who want to keep me sick by showing me pictures of unhealthy food on the TV and on the packaging. They send me mixed messages about sugar being joy when in fact sugar is pain. Despite all of this, I'm letting it go now. I surrender. I accept that it is what it is. And I accept that it may not change in my lifetime. And I accept that I'm learning to be stronger because of it. I'm learning to find my own inner voice because of it. I'm learning to work with my mind because of it. Whether junk food is there or not, it has no power over me because I'm stronger than McDonald's, I'm stronger than chocolate, I'm stronger than cake, I'm stronger than biscuits. And even though I might feel some shame around what I've done to my body, I might feel some shame about my emotions, I'm letting it go now. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't even know I was suppressing. I didn't know what was going on. And at the time, I didn't have the tools to change it. I couldn't have changed it, even if I'd have wanted to. I wasn't in a position to have changed it. And any kid, teenager or adult in my position would have done the same thing. Maybe some of my needs weren't met as a child. Maybe people didn't see me, didn't acknowledge me. And I felt invisible. Or maybe I only felt connected to a parent when they gave me food to comfort me. And none of this is my fault. I had to protect myself because the pain was real and food was there and easy to get hold of. So I forgive myself and I accept what I have created, but I'm ready now. But one thing is for sure, my body works for me in ways I can't even imagine. My body is a miracle. My body is a revelation. I love the way my body supports me and gives me life, even though I don't treat it that well sometimes. My heart beats without me trying. My hair grows without me trying. My arms and legs work without me trying. I can speak. I can formulate sentences. I have language. I can communicate with others. I can see the beauty of the world around me. I can sense the world. I can feel. I can experience pleasure. I literally am a miracle. And even though I might feel helpless sometimes around my desire for food, I understand that's just nature's way of keeping me alive, and I'm so grateful that it does that. Because without that drive to eat food, I wouldn't be here. And I'm so appreciative of that. Food is my fuel. And I can see now why nature does that. It wants me to survive. It wants me to be here on this planet. It's so important for nature that I survive, and I'm so grateful for that. And so I appreciate nature, and I thank it for driving me to eat food. And I accept that difficult emotions will rise, but I'm strong. And I know that with some practice I can tolerate these difficult emotions instead of stuffing them down with food. Because even though I can suppress my emotions, I can't ever actually eradicate them. The only way to eradicate them is to let them out through healthy means, through talking, crying, dancing, creating something, through having a therapy. So I accept where I am right now in this moment. And in this moment, I am deciding to love my body wholeheartedly and to respect my body by only giving it the foods that give me energy and vitality. This is my promise to myself. And so when you're ready, you can open your eyes. So I hope you enjoyed that little bit of positive programming. But of course, if you need any extra help, I am always here for you. So I offer a wonderful therapy called Rapid Transformational Therapy, which is really taking the world by storm right now, and is actually taking over conventional therapy because it is rooted, deeply rooted in neuroscience, and I'm getting some really good results with it. So RTT gets to the root, gets to the heart, and we do lots of language around this letting go, this understanding why you might have protected yourself, and understanding that you don't need to do that now. So it's a wonderful therapy, and it literally works by re-clearing and reprogramming all of this stuff. So 90% of your drivers and processes come from your subconscious mind. And in RTT, what we do is access the subconscious mind. So efforting, trying, willpower doesn't always work. It can work to a certain extent, but it's much easier to go straight to the root, straight to those subconscious drivers, the why, the big, big, big why. And then we have the power to change it. So if you are interested in talking to me about RTT or talking to me about anything to do with weight, food, relationships, anxiety, depression, stress, sleep, whatever, drop me a DM, drop me a message, drop me an email. I will be happy to have a conversation with you. So my email address is info@sallygarozzo.com. My website is sallygarozzo.com if you fancy having a look around there. And if we're not connected on Instagram, I'm much more active on Instagram now than I used to be. You can find me, Sally Garozzo, Mind Mentor. Okay, loves, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week for part 3, which is entitled, It's Not Your Fault, but It Is Your Responsibility from this moment forward. Lots of love. Have a wonderful day. Bye.